Hey guys, it's Scott with Scottie B Cards. In today's video, I'm with Andy Broome, and we're going to be discussing my cards. Andy, good to meet you. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to meet you.
So I have some cards here that I'm hoping you can help me grade. I actually want to predict my own grades first and see how accurate they are. I'm sure they won't be. Hopefully mine are all lower so that way I get better grades, but we'll see how it goes. Do you want to introduce yourself to my audience and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Andy Broome. I'm Vice President of CGC Cards, and I'm also Senior Grading Finalizer.
Awesome. So when you say you grade cards, how long have you been grading cards for?
I've been professionally grading cards now for 24 years.
24 years. I'm 28. Does that make you feel old?
It does make me feel old. Makes me feel very old.
That's okay. So Andy's been grading cards for almost my entire life, which just shows how qualified he is. And Andy, I have some cool cards. I have like a Larry Walker autograph. Here's a Ben Hogan rookie card. Number to 5, Xander Bogaerts rookie. Jose Ramirez black refractor. Larry Walker. You get the idea. Cool Billy Butler Superfractor, the most valuable card of the bunch. Just not really. And then I pulled this alt art from Evolving Skies. Not the alt art you want, but still cool.
Very cool.
So I want to get your thoughts on those. I also have some thicker patch cards. So I have this Todd Helton prestigious patch from Tier 1.
Very nice.
And then I have a quad relic of some outfielders of the last decade that are really good. And then I do have, these ones are cool. Here is a Superfractor of Jose Ramirez. That's a 101. I want to see if this could cross in case. If not, then I won't crack it out. And then a Mookie Betts Atomic 1/1 rookie card as well.
Nice.
So, okay, so let's do this. Let's start with the Pokemon card. This is the one, your guess is as good as mine. I like Pokemon. Sometimes I open Pokemon more than sports cards, but we'll see how this goes. I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to tell you my grade till you say it. I don't want to influence your decision making at all.
That's right.
I already have looked this one over. So, out of curiosity, when you're grading, do you use gloves or no gloves?
No, we don't use gloves. And it's interesting, as I said, I've done this for a few years. And, in the beginning, the earlier days of the hobby, I'm talking like the 80s and 90s, we didn't use gloves handling cards. And once we got into grading got started. What we found out is it's actually can harm the cards. And what I mean by that is when you have gloves on, you lose that tactile feeling of the item, and you can easily cause damage, especially to the corners and the edges. And what we found is as long as we follow our rules of clean, dry hands, we keep our fingernails clean and trimmed. But having clean hands, handling the cards while we're grading doesn't hurt the cards at all. And in fact, we don't want to wear gloves, and so we don't train to wear gloves. As I said, I've been grading for a few years now, and I've never worn gloves. We definitely see that it could be dangerous.
Because you've graded at other places too, haven't you?
I have, yes.
And so none of those places also use gloves?
No.
Well, every breaker on Whatnot Instagram is wearing some type of gloves, it feels like, which always looks corny, but that's okay. We want our cards protected. So I have my idea of a grade. I'll hold it above your head, what I think it is going to be. No one can see it. Your glasses are off, so maybe you can't see it now. But
that's right. Well, it helps your grade. No. So this is clean. Centering on these, which we really look for on the this pack pulled fresh cards here. It's slightly off, but it's not bad. I mean, this looks like a Gem Mint 10 to me.
Cool. Thank you.
I don't see any flaws on there that would drop the grade.
My only concern I had was back centering. Is it not too off center on the back?
It's not. It's probably close to being borderline, but it definitely falls in the parameters for Gem Mint.
Cool. And I have one more question on it. So on this card in particular, if you tilt it at a certain angle, you see there's it's not a defect, it's a print line from the manufacturer. Mm-hmm. How does that impact the grade? Does it impact the grade?
It can. This one's very slight. It's going to be very hard to see, especially once it's in a holder as well. It's going to be almost gone. If that print line was any more noticeable than it is, then it would definitely be probably a 9.5 Mint Plus at best.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'm excited with the 10 there, so that's perfect. I do have a question for you about alterations. Mm-hmm. So the next card is a Billy Butler Superfractor. And Superfractors, chromium cards, especially in sports cards, I've seen people come back with waxing. I don't know if you're familiar with it, where they actually put a substance on the surface, they use microfiber. What is your stance on that? It's a tough question. I don't know if you can answer it.
No,
but
it really isn't that tough. I mean, it's a pretty cut and dried. The way we look at cards, if something is done to a card, whether it's adding to a card or you're taking away from a card, if you're using mechanical or chemical means to remove or alter a surface or something like that, that would be altered.
Cool.
And so there's a lot of cleaning products out there, a lot of people, cleaning cards. And our rule is if it's detectable, then it's altered. And we see a lot of cards that are cleaned, chromium cards, whether it's Prism or chrome, Topps Chrome, whatever it is, and you can see the telltale signs. And so those will be returned as altered.
So that's my next question is, can you detect it like 100% of the time, or is it just as often as you can?
Well, you know, there's so many variables in how people do it, whether it's, microfiber and if you're using a chemical versus not using a chemical. So there's different varying degrees.
Yeah.
So, if you're cleaning it with a microfiber or using something to just clean off the surface and you're not polishing the surface or removing scratches, that's going to be more allowed than if you're actually filling in or removing scratches.
Awesome. That's always been my thoughts. I've seen a huge rise, especially people that are coming into the hobby, because I think every grading company has that same sentiment. It's not just a CGC opinion.
Right.
But I've seen a rise of products and people doing it because it's like there's a gray line, but I don't think it is a gray line.
There really isn't.
It should be an alteration, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a Billy Butler Superfractor. Gorgeous card. Billy Butler, he's a good friend of mine, and so I've always collected his cards. I'm actually going to give you my thoughts as I grade it, okay?
All right.
This one to me is centered really well. That doesn't bug me at all. Even the back is actually centered really well, and the corners look really good, and the edges look really good. There is potentially something on the surface, but it's so only if you hold it at this angle, you see a tiny dot. So I want to see what your thoughts are on this card as you look at it.
Well, since we're on the subject of surface cleaning, I was just taking a look at this one as an example, and you definitely see some scratches that are normal. Don't see any signs of the haziness or the lines that are produced when it's polished. So here, actually, just going to give a quick wipe there.
Thank you. That's actually my next question. Do you guys wipe down the cards if you see a fingerprint or
Of
anything
course,
like that?
we do.
Cool.
Yeah, of course. Doesn't mean we're going to get everything, but if we're grading it, we see something, we're definitely going to give it a courtesy wipe, as we call it.
Does a fingerprint affect the grade?
It does not. If it's just a regular, you touch it, it doesn't affect the grade.
Yeah.
But if you have something on your finger and it's applied on there, that does affect the grade, and I have seen that before.
You should see all my old Pokemon cards. That's exactly what happened.
Right.
Great jelly after peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Right. This is a very clean card. Like I said, there are some small surface issues, so I would place this at 9.5, which is mint plus.
I think that's a fair grade. That's kind of where I had it as well. I didn't think it was quite a 10, but I thought it had a good chance of at least a 9, so that's perfect.
Yeah. It is nicer than a 9, especially, as you mentioned, the edges and corners are really nice.
So here's a different kind. And this one, I probably shouldn't even attempt to grade. With thick cards, I am the absolute worst. They always have damage, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
It's a cool card, though.
Very cool card. I like how Trout has the best patch on there.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big Mike Trout, Mookie Betts guy, so have those two is nice. So by the way, while you're looking, I don't know if you can multitask. Let's ask you some tougher questions.
Let's do it.
Shall we? So speaking of alterations, what about like the little fuzzies on the edge of the card? Can you like rub those little things off the fraying? Is that alteration?
Well,
that's just a poor cut from the company, I feel.
Yeah, that's the thing is a lot of times a cut is not necessarily going to affect the grade that much because it's factory. Now, if the chipping or the fraying goes into the surface of the card, that will affect the grade. But your standard, your fuzzies that come off the edge really aren't going to affect the grade that much. And what I've seen, what could happen is you risk more trying to remove those than you do leaving them.
Got it.
So they don't impact the grade that much when they're coming off the card. But if you were to remove them and leaves evidence of being removed, that's altered.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah,
so basically leave them is what you're saying.
Yeah, generally leave them because there's not much you can do about it. If they're coming off the card, it's not so bad. If it's going into the card, it will affect the grade, but there's not much you can do. And so what happens is if you were to go in and try to clean that edge, it's going to show evidence in that area of spot trimming, what we call it.
Cool. So what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this is a nice card. You have your typical thick card damage.
It's the worst.
But it's not bad, though. It's actually pretty clean, especially on the back edges and the back corners, pretty clean. Actually, I'd give this a 9.
That's exactly where I was at.
Yeah.
So I didn't think it deserved a 10 just because, again, no matter what thick cards you have, it feels like the edges get dinged up.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and this one in particular, this edge is a good example. And I don't know if you can catch that in the camera. I'll move it around a little bit. But, that's just some typical edge wear for a thick card. And so that's one of the factors there to keep it from going higher.
Awesome. Thank you. Great.
Yeah,
so we have
absolutely.
a 10, we have a 9.5, and now we have a 9. I don't like the trend. The next one,
We need to go the other way.
I'm going to get probably a lower graded card here just so we can keep it going. Let's just keep going. This is a Larry Walker. This is 2004 Red X-Fractor. They aren't serial numbered, but they're limited, I think, 61 or 62 copies. So with this card, I can already show you. It's already off center. You can tell, and it has the fuzzies that we talked about. But with this X-Fractor, so speaking of X-Fractors, this is a good question. What about like the X-Fractor lines? We see with Prism basketball, like there's like the red waves, they have a big line across them. Or with X-Fractors, you can get like the X-Fractor lines where when they put the refractor or X-Fractor sheet on top, it's just right where the next part starts.
Right.
How does that affect the grade? Should we be worried about that, or does it not matter?
It does affect the grade some. It's more about location. Okay. So if you got a line going right through the player's face, that's going to be more detrimental than if it wasn't. But generally, as you said, I mean, there's no way around it. That's how the hollow foil, the layer, the refractor layer, it's just how it is when it's laid out. There's lines at certain points on the sheet. So, whether you get lucky and get in between those lines or not. So it doesn't affect the grade greatly, but it can. And the big part of that is the placement of where that line falls. Yeah.
Great. So what are your thoughts on this one? I kind of already did myself a disservice by saying that's probably lower, but
well, lucky for you though, I don't let you influence me. So
perfect.
You can say what you want. No, I think the biggest flaw in this card is the centering, as you mentioned. Surface is actually fairly clean. There's a little spot here if I can get my finger on here. Well, unfortunately, you are right. We are going the wrong direction on the trend here, but I think this card, it looks like it's going to be an 8.
I think that's the right grade.
Yeah.
I was hoping for an 8.5, but I thought there was about a 0% chance it went higher than that. So
it's not too far off from that. But it's an 8 with a chance at an 8.5, but not higher. I think that centering is going to keep you closer to the 8 range.
Yeah, and it doesn't look too off-centered, but if you look at the bottom to the top, it's actually really off.
Yeah, that's where it's the worst, top to bottom.
Great. So the next card, I'm very interested to see what your thoughts are on it. But this is a Jose Ramirez Black Refractor, number 2, 100. So it's a cool card, and it looks really nice with the Guardians uniform. But this one, as you'll see, is a little bit different situation. And I want to get your thoughts on this one entirely. So I already kind of have my own opinion on it. And my opinion is I have no idea.
So this one is, it's interesting. It's got the little bit of the ghost image or the embossing around the chrome part kind of off just a little bit. And you see that a lot more on Prism cards. You'll see where the embossing, and sometimes we'll actually see that embossing, meaning it's kind of like what gives the image kind of a 3D image of the player. Yeah. And we'll actually see that embossing for the wrong player on a card in Prism.
Oh, cool.
Actually see the outline of a completely different position, which is always interesting.
How does that affect the grade for the wrong player?
We'll actually notate it on the label that it's essentially, almost like it is an error. It's got the wrong embossing on it, so we'll notate that. If it's the right embossing and it's just off, that can affect the grade. This is very slight, so this really wouldn't affect the grade. But you'll see it more pronounced where it looks like they're standing beside themselves. That's where it's going to be detrimental to the grade. So you got a roller mark across the back.
There is. Yep. Yeah. I was hoping you wouldn't see it. That's what I wanted to see. There's a big roller mark, actually.
Yeah.
It looks like, I thought maybe even it was a rubber band mark.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a roller mark. It's very, very uniform, very clean. I'll show here on the camera. Yeah, that one is heavy. It's not on the front, so you're going to be in the 7.75 range on that one.
Which one is it, 7 or 7.5?
I think you could go 7.5 with that because everything else is so nice.
We're literally going like half grade down. Let's keep it going.
Let's go back the other way.
Oh, this is fun. Okay. We're going to go very far the opposite direction.
Okay, good.
This one...
wait. No, you're talking about the other way.
This one is about as low as it gets. It's a Ben Hogan rookie card. This is a perforated
Perforated?
Thank you. And it usually has a Leonhardt is the person next to it. But this one looks like it was broken in half. But then I think it might even be trimmed as well because you can't see those edges. So I want to know, can that still receive a numerical grade, or is that just altered?
So if a card is supposed to have perforations and someone has gone in and cut them off, that would be altered. A great example would be your Sports Illustrated for Kids cards. It can be very difficult to remove those from the sheet. They're perforated, and what we've seen is sometimes people will go in and remove those to try to, they'll cut them with a blade to come off the sheet, and that is altered, so it would not be able to receive a numeric grade.
Very interesting.
Now, sometimes with these, the perfs are still there, they're just worn away. And that's the case here with this one. I do see them in here. They're just it's just worn because the Burke Ross actually have pretty pronounced perfs.
Oh, you can see them. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Just very slight. Yeah.
Great. So it's not altered.
So yeah, this could receive a numerical grade. However, it's not going to be very high.
It's bent in half.
It is. So there is a crease that runs right through it.
Thinking like a 6 or an 8.
Yeah, maybe not that high. But you know what's great about this is it still has actually a great eye appeal. You know, even with the crease going all the way across front and back, it doesn't break the surface. So it's actually a nice looking card. But so that one would be a 2.
Oh, great. That's awesome. So that's the lowest grade, hopefully.
Let's hope.
If something is lower than that, I did something wrong in my pre-grading. So
that's right. You missed something.
So we'll see how it goes. Thank you for watching part 1 of this series of grading my cards with CGC. Andy and I will be back for a video soon, probably in the next video or 2. We're going to be posting the rest of these cards and maybe even having a little giveaway. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.